But joining us now for reactions to the current count is Diamond and Silk, the host of Crystal Clear on Newsmax TV. So ladies, right now there is still a fighting chance. Many Republicans are coming out saying that from this point forward, the remaining fight is going to be in the courts. But I want to ask you about your responses so far to what we've seen coming out of the 2020 race.
Well, what we've seen is that it seems like the left want to take away our vote and put in fake votes.
That's right.
And when you see all of the things that's happening when it comes to these voting machines, when it comes to these ballots, dead people could possibly be voting. They did an influx of mail-out ballots. Something is just not quite right.
That's
but
right.
We're not going to take this, just lying down. We're going to stand up and we're going to fight this here. Listen, the election night, when they halt the counting, President Trump was up.
He was ahead, yes.
In all of these states. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we go to bed, we get up the next morning, now Biden is up because of all of these mail-in ballot dumps. Something is wrong with this. Where did these ballots come from? Let's take a look at Michigan. Detroit, Michigan is a ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
Does the amount of mail-in ballots match the amount of registered voters?
That's right.
So we're going to have to look at all of this here. We do believe that there is fraud. They're trying to convince us that Joe Biden have more of the popular vote than any other president in history. Mathematically, that's impossible.
That's right.
If that was true, he would have won. They would have called it for him the night of the election. But what they did, they played a dirty trick.
That's right.
They stopped everything because they had to go find votes for Biden, in our opinion, match their numbers.
And let's not forget that President Trump, they're saying that he got 20% of the black vote. If he got 20% of the black vote, mathematically, it is not possible for Joe Biden to have over 70 million people just come in for him, especially at his rallies when he only has 6 seats with circles around it, and some of those seats are empty. He was a flawed candidate. This here is despicable as to what's going on in this election, but I know that with God, all things are possible. The devil meant it for bad, but God is going to turn this around for our good. Our freedoms is at stake. Yeah. When they're talking about stealing this election from the president, that means stealing our freedoms, stealing our constitutional rights, stealing our civil liberties, our independency. We cannot let that happen. And if our president is on a battlefield fighting for us, we as American citizens need to be out on a battlefield fighting for him.
And right now, too, I don't think it depends where you stand politically. You want to have faith in our electoral system. It seems like we should have a system where, for example, if there are concerns about the vote, you should be able to audit the vote. It should be a simple way to check. We live in 2020. I could go look you guys up on the internet, for example, and find out a lot of information about you. I feel like our election system should have that same type of guarantee where we can check our votes, make sure that what is happening is indeed accurate. But I'm glad you brought up the battle that's taking place right now, because yesterday there were concerns that many Republicans were not fighting that battle. We saw Donald Trump Jr. take to Twitter saying that some prominent voices that have been speculated to be running in 2024 are being silent at this very moment. We did see Senator Lindsey Graham come out yesterday on Hannity and say that he is going to be supporting the president. But do you think the rest of the Republican leadership has done enough?
I think that the whole leadership should be supporting this president, standing behind this president, and then standing up to this fraud. We're not crazy. I get tired of the media spreading a narrative, wanting us to bite the narrative and keep the narrative going. And if you don't believe what they're saying, and if you sway another way, they want to take you down off of social media. Yeah. It's time to stand up for our freedoms and our rights and stand up for our votes. We should never have to question the integrity of our election, because we should have equal, fair, and our elections, and not somebody bringing in these massive influx of ballots. We don't know where they're coming from. It has been alleged up in Michigan, 130,000 of them was unverified. This is unacceptable, and we can see this with all 8 of our eyes. Yep. And listen, it's time for every Republican to stand up and fight this.
And let me tell you something. If it wasn't for President Donald J. Trump, there would be no Republican Party.
Right.
President Trump have exposed the swamp. Now it's time for him to pull the plug. All of the rats that's been clogging the pipe, it's time for them to go. Stop stagnating our country. This is not going to be a socialist country. We are the United States, not the divided states, and you're not going to control us. It's we, the American people. We control things as the American people. We control who is our president, not these elitists.
And it's interesting to me, too, because over the past couple of months and even years, for example, I know that people have shared just a video of Joe Biden and it's been labeled by Twitter by saying this could influence the results of the election. It's unfair for this video to be shared. Looking back, I mean, everybody who shared a poll should be accused of trying to influence the election in a negative way because the polls were so clearly off. Not to mention, the media narrative was not founded by exactly what the American people came out. You mentioned, for example, that President Trump overperformed among black and Latino voters especially. And for the past 4 years, I've been told that he's the most racist man in the world, supports white supremacy, things of that nature. So when we talk about what's happening right now, too, does the media and pollsters have some accountability in this?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Tell you the truth, I think the pollsters should be arrested for election interference and
Yep.
voter suppression.
Yep.
They know exactly what they was doing. I think it's time to round up some of these executives that sits in some of these here media companies
Yeah.
that call the shots. And they've also voter suppressed and
Mhm.
interfered in our election, especially this 2020 election. When you have the whole media, 98% of the media, pointing the finger at one man, demonizing him, vilifying him like he's the problem.
Yeah.
Always remember those three fingers in that thumb is always pointing back at
That's
them.
right.
What's the problem with them? The problem is they want to pick and control our elections. They want to pick who's president so that they can keep their gravy trains going. But this is a whole new day.
Yeah.
President Trump is not a career politician. He's a businessman.
Yes.
He's fighting for us,
Yes.
and we got to stand with him to fight for him.
To the very end, baby.
And perhaps that's one thing that will be taken out of this election is maybe people don't believe polls anymore. I know people were skeptical coming out of 2016, but looking at what we're seeing right now, I think there's no doubt that the polling industry within itself has lost all credibility. And maybe that's worse than any jail sentence or anything like that because the entire industry is irrelevant from this point forward. But Diamond and Silk, it's always a pleasure having you on this program. I really appreciate you breaking down your responses to what's going on right now. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.